Hello, this is Rich Larson. We're officially underway for the September 2018 edition of the IIBA Certification Chat. As I said just a minute ago, this is the third or fourth or maybe even fifth year. I got to look up when we first started these chats. It's been several years now they've been running these in service to the BA community and those of you interested in IIBA certifications, whether it's CBAP, CCBA, or ECBA. Plus, there's a new certification called the IIBA-AAC that just came out this year. So welcome everybody. Send me on in your name, your location, like John from Montana. Welcome, John. Get used to the GoToWebinar question panel because that's where that's the ability for you to submit questions, and then I'll read them off from the written version, and I will verbally answer them to that. So Emily from Minnesota, welcome. So we're getting going. Nilanjana from New York, hello everybody. Thank you for checking in and getting started here with the certification chat. I have a couple of polls I'm going to use today. Let's see, reattach that poll. I'm going to open that up. First of all, I'm going to ask which IIBA certification are you folks interested in? So I'm going to get that going here. And let's see, yeah, which certification are you interested in? Please select one. And if you're interested in multiples, I guess you'd have to say not sure. But which one are you primarily interested in? Most of the time, we have people interested in CBAP, but there is a mixture of different certifications that people are usually interested in on this chat. So I'm prepared to answer any and all questions. The AAC being the newest one from IIBA, there's not a lot of information out yet on that. And we have had a couple of instructors of ours take the exam. One has passed, one is waiting to hear the result. So we don't have a lot of insights yet on that one, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. So, all right, most people have checked in. I'm going to close the poll. I'm going to share the results. Here we go. Almost 80% of you in the CBAP, 11% CCBA, 11% IIBA-AAC, and another 11% not sure, or maybe you are interested in multiple. So great, thank you for doing that. I'm going to hide the polls here, and there you have it. You can download these slides from the GoToWebinar handout section, and we'll also make them available to you separately as another way to get a hold of them. But there's some descriptions here about the certification requirements. I'm certainly happy to talk about that. There is a section on the exam blueprint for the 3 basic levels of IIBA certification. The handouts also have a list of some tips for doing your application. If you haven't applied yet, there are a number of, not shortcuts, but another tips that we can share with you, including a handy-dandy spreadsheet that we have available on our website to let you organize your project hours. That's oftentimes the hardest thing about applying, to verify how many BA hours you've had. And the worksheet's really good for that. And there are links to the different kinds of things, including our worksheet and various other things. So there's a section on CBAP, CCBA, ECBA resources that has a whole bunch of links for you to be able to go get more information, including, again, a repeat of our worksheet, but also info on various study aids that we've got and classes and study guides and so on, plus some other webinar information. There's a page of tips in general for doing preparation. I think the ECBA is a little bit different kind of preparation. Nobody on the call today indicated interest in that, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that one. But certainly for the major application or the major certifications here, including the CBAP, which most of you are interested in. I think plan on spending about 100 hours of study time, which on the surface sounds like a lot, but it'll go quickly, I think, once you get into it. If you take a class, that would reduce the number of hours, because that's part of our 100-hour figure that we've gotten from a couple of different surveys that we've done in terms of what successful candidates have done to prepare. So I just want to set that expectation that you should plan your time accordingly as far as when you think you might take the exam. Give yourself at least those 100 hours of study time spread over weeks, depending how many hours a week that you have available to study. So there's a whole bunch of tips like that in here. Some other thoughts about retaking the exam. If you don't pass the first time, not everybody does, you can retake the exam up to 3 times in a 1-year period. Not retake 3, but you can take the exam up to 3 times. And there's no waiting time. So you could give yourself a little bit more study time to brush up on the areas that you didn't do as well on, because they'll give you that feedback. And then you can go back and retake the exam, which is a nice change from the previous kind of waiting period they used to impose on you. So, and there's a little bit of information here about the new AAC, about the eligibility requirements for people that have had some years of Agile experience. But I think from things we've heard, the questions are more basic knowledge than we were led to believe at first. And I don't know that you need to have that many years of Agile experience. So here is sort of an exam blueprint on it about the different topics from the Agile Extension. So if you're interested in that one, some of you expressed interest in that on our little poll. And then you'll also get a discount when you get our email. So look for the email after the session today. So, all right, I got a question from Anurag. Hello, welcome back, sir. I'm going to stop this slideshow. There we go. This doesn't flash in the background so much. Anurag is preparing for CBAP, and he's asked, do I need to remember all of the techniques, inputs and outputs attached to the tasks? That's the first part of this question. I don't think you have to memorize them all. That would be very difficult. I think you have to have some familiarity with the techniques and what they do. I think that's more important. Familiarity with why would you choose a certain technique. So let's say you get a question on the CBAP exam that you're faced with, such as trying to understand maybe the relationships between data objects or entities or something in a problem that you're faced with. And what kind of a tool would you select? Or that's overly simplifying it, but that kind of thing. So you'd select data modeling or whatever as the answer, given the choices. All the questions are multiple choice, so you'd see 4 different techniques, and maybe they would have data mining, or maybe they would have data flow diagrams. So something similar. You'd have to pick out, so the word data would appear in at least 3, maybe all of the answers. Those are called distractors, to kind of trick you into answering the wrong question. And not so much, it's not meant to as a trick thing, but just to test your knowledge. Do you really know, or are you just being able to take a test well and guess at the right answer? That's what they're really trying to do. So I don't think you need to know all of the details. You're better off knowing the techniques, and there are 50 of them, so that's a lot. So you go on to say, I know there are case study based questions in the CBAP. Yes. Will there be a direct knowledge based questions in the CBAP? Yes, there will be some. There's probably a minimum number of those, but you will get some direct knowledge questions. And in our online study exam, we have a lot of direct knowledge questions to help prepare you. Our tool is meant to help you understand and absorb the BABAC, and also to see some simulations of what you would get on the real exam. So we try to give you a variety of help on our study exam. Lastly, you go on to say which technique is aligned to which task and input output. No, knowing which techniques apply to which task is not so important as much as, like my earlier example, faced with a given situation, what technique would you choose? That's much more likely a kind of a question that you'll get. All right, Sally, welcome. And here's your question. I submitted my CBAP application 3 months ago, or 3 weeks ago, not sure what the holdup is. That's unusual, Sally. I would write to them, certification@iiba.org. That's certification@iiba.org, and ask them what the holdup is, because usually it's a few days. 3 weeks used to be their old limit on how long it took them to respond to you. So that's what I think your next action should be, Sally. So write to them, ask them what is going on. And that shouldn't be. There may be just some snafu. Maybe the email got lost or whatever, and so on. Once you submit your application, then they review it and then approve it, you have up to 1 year that you can then take your exam. So that's generally enough time for people to get ready. I've seen cases where people procrastinate, or maybe life events come up and they had an illness in the family, or job duties suddenly increased and you couldn't take the time to study. So that does happen. That year will go faster than you think. So definitely plan your time to get that 100 hours of study in, and give yourself, gosh, maybe even 3, if not 6 months extra time in case you wanted to retake the exam. So I would try to plot it out, something like that. Next question from Nilanjana. With 4 years of experience, I should be taking CCBA or CBAP, she asks. I assume it's a she, right? Did I get that right? I would want to know how many hours per year you spent doing business analysis activities. That really dictates whether you should go for one or the other, because the whoops, in the handout, oh, there we go, that lists the requirements. You have the number of hours here, 3,750 for CCBA and 7,500 for CBAP. And sometimes I'll get asked the question, well, I have about 5,000 hours, what should I do? Well, that clearly qualifies for CCBA, and it depends on how many hours per year you work as a business analyst. And so if you do full-time BA type work, you can probably expect to earn about 1,800 hours a year, maybe more. If you're billing as a consultant, you might be able to get more. Bear in mind, you're not going to spend every hour at work on BA tasks. If you are more of a hybrid, say doing a BA and a PM, or maybe you do work as a product owner or something on Scrum projects, you won't get as many hours in, so therefore then it might take you longer. So I think if you're that close, if you're like 2,000 hours away, 1 year away from your CBAP, you may want to delay and be still maybe doing some casual study to get ready for it. So it kind of depends. So any ideas, Nilanjana, how many hours you have of experience? I'll ask that for a follow-up. Divya is asking from India. Hello, it must be late, 11 o'clock at night, maybe in India. What's the passing percentage I need to score for CBAP? You should expect to get 70%, 70% to pass. That's not a published number, but it's our best guess based on our so-called intelligence that we've heard. And as a side note for a preparation tip, when you're doing practice questions, like using our online study exam, we urge people to try to get at least around 80% on all of the different knowledge areas if you can. That means you've over-prepared, but you've not memorized all of our exam questions. I mean, anybody who gets 100% on our questions means you've maybe taken too many practice tests. So I think 80% is generally sufficient on any practice questions you've done. So Emily is asking, hi, Emily, I believe Watermark offers a CBAP certification prep class. Yes. We do have a virtual classroom setting. Yes. The setting allows us to interact with the instructor. Yes. And qualifies for our 35 PD hours. Again, yes. It's a great venue. We found that to be our best formula simply because of people's schedules and the timing that running in-person classes has not proven as successful. We hate canceling classes even more than you hate vendors canceling a class on you. So we run them every couple of months. We have one coming up in October. So check out our website. It's a great way to be guided through the material in a setting that I think is really conducive to certification. Plus, it's got lots of goodies that come with it. You get a certification prep guide. You get student notes, hundreds of pages of notes that go along with the course to explain it, plus some other handouts. And you get a 90-day subscription to our online study exam to help you practice doing exam questions. So thanks for letting me kind of show off our class. It's really a fabulous way to learn. Okay, okay, I'm glad I guessed right. So you work 4 years as a full-time BA, but little task and testing and as a PM, but it's nominal. If you then say, just as a guess, 1,500 hours a year. I can't necessarily do the math. That's 6,000 hours, right? If 50 to 1,500 a year for 4 years, that's 6,000 hours. That's within striking distance of the 7,500. If you got another 1,500 hours within a year, maybe you'd qualify for the CBAP. So if you're asking my advice, if it was me, I'd wait. But I'd also study so I don't kind of put it off or get out of the mindset of preparing. Because after all, once you get the hours in, then you can apply, and then you can be taking the exam shortly thereafter. So if you start studying now, you might be ready in a year to finalize your study and then be able to take the exam shortly after you apply. So that would be my advice. If you think the next year is going to bring you about another 1,500 hours on top of your 6,000, assuming that's what you have, I think that seems like a good course of action. So Divya, also from India, thanks again. My application form is selected for audit. How do IIBA perform audit and contact my reference? Okay, I was also audited, and it's kind of, part of the process. They will send emails out to your references. Well, first of all, your references have already weighed in, so I don't think they recontact those people because they've already interacted with the IIBA. But the contacts for your projects are going to be the people that IIBA will reach out to. So assuming you've given contact information on your application, which I think they scan through to make sure they have it, they're going to email them to verify that Divya has worked on projects at this organization doing business analysis work, and basically just verify that what you told them is accurate. They will also want to see your diploma for high school or college to verify your employment, or I'm sorry, your education. So thirdly, they're going to want to see a certificate of completion for your 35 hours of professional development BA training. So make sure that you get a PDF of your certificate from completion of whatever training you did when you applied. So those three things, contact your contacts, get a PDF of your diploma, and thirdly, a PDF of your certificate of completion from any training that you've taken. And it's not too painful. I survived. I lived through it. I don't know what percentage they contact, but there are a certain number they do. So Soraya, hello, welcome. You're a PMI PBA. Is it good to have a certification of IIBA? I think so. I've got both. Now, it depends on your situation. For any consultant or trainer, I think it's good to have both. If you are a full-time business analyst, generally what I advise is the CBAP. Now, the PMI PBA is an up-and-coming certification, and we've always recommended it for people that do a hybrid role between business analysis and project management. That may be changing over the years, but I think that's still a good, type of recommendation. You also have to look at your organization support for the two different organizations. So some companies are really firmly behind PMI, others are firmly behind IIBA, some are neither. You're on your own, and it really then doesn't matter. So you have to look at a lot of different things. So maybe you could, if you're interested, send me back some more particulars on your situation, and I will be happy to respond. Nilan John is asking again, makes sense, thanks. Okay. Emily's saying, regarding to the audit question, is it okay for your references are the same context for your individual projects? Absolutely. So in other words, your references can also be contacts, and they probably often will be, because one of the sources of references will be like customers of your projects, people that you interact, or your career managers. So absolutely, they can be the same. So that's good, isn't it? Hello, Kent. In regards to the Agile Extension exam, the AAC, yep, I see I can register to take the exam through IIBA. Yep. I'm not sure of any other ways to sign up for the exam. Generally speaking, once you qualify with the application, then you'd be given a link to go to your testing center. But this new exam is being done online, from what I understand. So I think it's strictly through IIBA, but don't quote me on that. But that's the only way I'm familiar with, is going through IIBA. Hello, Ping. I recently need to recertify my CCBA, and I'm now in suspended status past my recertification date. Can I earn CDUs during my suspension period and apply that to my current recertification application? I don't think so. I think if you earn CDUs after your 3-year period is done, that would count toward the next 3-year period. But I would look to figure out what activities did you do during your 3-year period that would qualify. Perhaps maybe you read articles or a book on business analysis, or even had discussions. Things like that will qualify for a PDU or CDU rather. Any IIBA meetings that you attended that you didn't list. You may find some more sources of CDUs, and I would definitely appeal to IIBA to allow you to recertify. I think it's in their best interest to do that. In the end, they may say, sorry, we have our rules, you can't do it, but I think it's certainly worth a try to ask them for the ability to recertify, even if you miss the date. So, because the suspended status implies to me that you can still, come forward with your recertification, and that they're going to let you do that. And let's face it is definitely their best interest to have you recertify, after all. And on that note, if you do let your certification lapse, you will have to take another exam to recertify. But if you do your recertification tasks and pay the small fee and earn the CDUs you need every 3 years, there's no retaking any exam, which is the good thing. So it's your best interest to get IIBA to give you that recertification for sure. Abiola is asking, must the reference be a CBAP or someone who is on the project? Well, the reference could be a CBAP, and could be your career manager, or it could be a customer of any of your projects. So someone that and customers are generic, like maybe a sponsor. It could be a business subject matter expert that you interacted with a lot. Could be a product owner if you worked on an Agile project using Scrum, let's say. Any of those sources that could be considered a quote-unquote customer. So it could be a CBAP, but it doesn't have to be. I suppose CBAPs might be the easiest. If you knew some people that could attest to your BA knowledge and skills, that would be the easiest. Or a career manager who is aware of your experience. And hopefully it wouldn't be a problem asking your career manager for a reference. I had one person on one of these chats a while back that said, I really don't want to let my manager know that I'm applying for the CBAP, so I don't want to list that person, which I thought, that's really unfortunate that you're in that situation, that you can't let your manager know. Maybe it meant that that person was interested in leaving the company or something like that. I didn't get into particulars with the person, but it seemed a little bit unusual and a shame that she couldn't let her manager know that she was even applying. I think in general, companies are, if not active supporters of certification, they don't mind you getting certified. There's a wide variety in company support. And I'm just curious, of those of you that are on the call today, how many of you have, shoot me in a little note. Is your company supportive of you? And if so, how much do they support? Do they like pay for any of your expenses, or are they just sort of tolerant of you applying? Just send me in your thoughts if you would. I'm just curious, and I'll read them out to the people on the call here. 100% supported is great. John says full support, including cost reimbursement. That's excellent. I'm glad you. 100% is another one. That's fabulous. That's fabulous to hear that. It's not always the case. So the folks that are 100% supported, count yourself among the lucky ones to get that. Emily says, my organization has done software development projects that I've conducted testing on. Can I count the testing hours in my application? No. Or does that fall under the project management umbrella? Probably not even the project management. What you could count, Emily, would be the hours that you spent, say, verifying test results against requirements. Does that make sense? It may be something different in your world, but the actual testing is not business analysis work. But verifying that the requirements have been met and have sufficient quality to say to move forward beyond the testing phase is definitely a business analysis task. Creating test plans is not, because that's part of testing. But refining requirements or documenting requirements so that, now you can't really test a requirement per se, but that they could then be developed in order to be tested. Maybe I'm stretching here. I'm trying to show you that as long as it's a business analysis activity, it counts. But people have gotten tripped up on that. If you indicate testing on your application, then they will be rejected. And by the way, IIBA will reject hours on your application if they feel that they're not BA activities. And you could fall short of the number of hours. If you just come in at 7,500 hours exactly, and IIBA whacks off even 10 hours, you'll fall short. And I don't know about lately, but early on, IIBA was just very carte blanche. No, you don't qualify, sorry. Now they might say, hey, do you have any other hours that you could substitute on other projects that would get you back over the limit? Hopefully they're doing that now. What I recommend to people is don't even come close. Make sure that you go overboard if you can. If you have 8,000, or I think on my application I submitted 8,500 hours just to be on the safe side because I had them. If you're exactly 7,500, make sure they're all BA activities and you'll be okay. You can be exactly 7,500 and your application will be approved as long as, you've indicated that they're business analysis activities. You should be good. So Emily's also asking, in their application, they request that you state what role you were for the project. Okay, so I would list on business analyst. And she says, should I leave tester out of the role to eliminate any confusion? I would also say that you may say I played various roles, mostly business analyst. Now, the hours that you report definitely should be those hours that you spent doing BA tasks. And on the application, you'll be given broad categories by knowledge area in order to indicate how many hours that you spent. So maybe in solution evaluation, where you've verified test results against the requirements, then it would be just those hours doing that verification, not the hours you spent actually doing testing, it as an example. So that's good. You're on the right track, Emily, with that about leaving tester or project manager out of the equation. Don't give IIBA the thought that, some of your hours here are testing and PM and subject matter expert hours. No, you don't want to give them that opening. And also, you want to be honest too. I'm not suggesting that you bend the hours. If you fall short, you fall short, and then you wait until you've accumulated the number of hours to apply. It's definitely in an honor system, and you sign a code of conduct that what you're doing is truthful and honest. So I think it's best to be honest with that, but just keep the testing and other things. Maybe you're a developer. Sometimes I've had developers on these chat sessions that are interested in certification as well. So don't list any hours you spent doing programming. Okay, I'm just wondering what final questions you might have. We're at the end of the chat. Remember, we hold these every month. What's the exact date in October that we're going to be doing this? October 5th. I'll be back on for that call. Did I read this? Yeah, there we go. The question panel is in the way. I can answer any last questions here real quick. Umberto, hello. What country are you from, Umberto? About certifications, is it possible to have an IIBA Agile certification for having an ECBA? Absolutely. You can have the IIBA-AAC as your first and only one. So you do not need to have anything else like ECBA first. So welcome from Brazil. Glad you could join us. So yeah, so you for sure. I bet there are good people that may never get any of the other certifications, but get the AAC. I mean, IIBA would be happy with that, and it would make some sense depending on your job prospects. And it might be that might be a good certification to combine it with. Umberto, are you a CSM or a CSPO by any chance? Or PMI, of course, is a PMI ACP, which is an Agile certified practitioner. And Umberto's asking, what do you think about the Agile certification for PMI? Speaking of ACP, I think it's a good one. It's not super rigorous, but it requires more understanding and a harder exam than the CSM exam. Not to take anything away with CSM, but basically you can pretty well pass that exam after sitting through a 2-day class. Not true with the ACP. I think it's a little bit harder. ACP is nowhere near as hard, say, as a CBAP or the PMP or the PMI PBA. Remains to be seen about AAC. It's just too early for us to make any comments about that difficulty yet. So, all right. So if you're not certified, I think the AAC is a good place to start. That's certainly one that I would be urging you to. And I'm actually doing a little studying for that myself. I'm curious about what the Agile Extension has, and so I've not gotten super far with my studies. Like probably a lot of you, life and work has gotten in the way, and I just haven't got back to it. So I can relate to where you're at. In fact, I'll leave you the thought that when I got my first certification, my PMP, it took me easily over 2 years to get up the courage to go take the exam. So I understand where you're coming from. If you can do it faster than that, it's certainly better. So I want to wish you all well on your certification journeys. Keep in touch with us. Hope to see you in a class or try out one of our products. We are, I think, very accomplished at certification and have good products out there. So best wishes you all. Thank you for stopping by the chat today, and look for more follow-ups from us real soon. Thanks now. Have a good one.